Villains always hold a special place in people's hearts if they're well written, but today we gotta touch on a fan favorite, the anti-hero named Choso. For a lot of us, he proved himself as a great character with a sad story who chose to better himself as the story went on. So now that his journey has come to an end, it's time to look at all of it again. Choso has the misfortune of having a very extremely rotten parent, if we can even call fake Noritoshi Kamo that. He came into being alongside other siblings from an experiment done on his mother to create something new and interesting. Mr. Body Snatcher just likes to see what can happen when he does tests with curses that haven't been done before. So basically, Choso's the oldest science experiment done by Kenjaku that we know of. And from what we know, it involved his mother's womb, Kenjaku's DNA, and a curse to impregnate the captive woman. This became the Cursed Womb Death Paintings, with Choso being a human curse hybrid. Even prior to meeting fake Kamo, Choso's mother could have cursed human children, and was shunned because of it. If not for that, she likely wouldn't have been discovered by Kenjaku, but then Choso probably wouldn't have been born either. That aside, Choso shows appreciation for his mother and feels anger towards the monster who put her through hell. You know, those 9 surgical procedures. She likely didn't survive the ordeal after. Later, the death paintings were taken into Jujutsu custody and hidden behind Tengen's barrier. Even then, Choso was still aware of everything, probably as the eldest of the siblings. Also, he and the 2 others, Eso and Kechizu, were classified as special grade objects. In fact, Choso said that he was still able to train himself and perfect his techniques while sealed in a jar. Choso did this for 150 years. And in case it's not clear, he inherited the innate technique of blood manipulation from Kenjaku since he was inhabiting Noritoshi Kamo's body at the time. So his life was basically on hold for years until Kenjaku came back with a new body and a group of special grade curses as his entourage. If that isn't just pure evil, I don't know what is. Whether because of not being able to fully live life out in the open, or because of the influence of the curses who freed him and his 2 siblings, Choso sides with them over Jujutsu society. In terms of appearance, it's understandable. He looks the most human of his family, and has a protective personality that would push him to save his siblings from any ridicule or violence. But considering what happened to his human mother, and how he seemed so devastated for the abuse against her, why not side with the Jujutsu users instead? Either way, even seated right next to his father, Choso has no sense that he's being manipulated. And while his brothers go off to retrieve a Sukuna finger, he stays back and plays board games. That mission goes badly for them and they both die, killed by Nobara and Yuji, just doing their jobs. Not only that, but Choso has to experience the pain of their loss from too far away to do anything about it. On a less depressing note, since Kenjaku was such a productive madman, Choso has other family members around. Speaking of experimenting, let's touch on what exactly blood manipulation allows Choso to do. Like I said, it's an inherited technique from the Kamo bloodline, just like the 10 Shadows for the Zenin clan. And although Choso was classified as a special grade object, once he was incarnated, his power is comparable to a grade 1 sorcerer. I think it's probably slightly higher because of his unusual mix, but we'll touch on that later. Because of his composition, or maybe his training for a century, Choso has extremely developed endurance in battle. He can take a beating and keep fighting, even after a lot of pain and blood loss. He also seems to be able to continue fighting if he just has a short while to recover. We've seen this against Kenjaku mainly, which could mean that Choso's hate also helps to spur him on longer. Even without the practical experience of fighting hand to hand, Choso's able to pick it up quickly and hold his own against tough opponents. Being adaptable is an important trait, and Choso's demonstrated that he's beyond capable of reading situations and threats and making the right calls because of it. Even against Gojo, Choso displayed amazing battle IQ, knowing not to get too close and to just keep out of reach to break him down mentally. Not only that, but his strong willpower allows him to go beyond his limits anytime his cherished siblings are in danger. But let's get to the main dish: blood manipulation. Seeing as he's not strictly human, Choso's able to expend much more than someone in the Kamo clan could. For example, The modern-day Noritoshi Kamo had to carry bags of blood with him to make sure he didn't get anemia or die of blood loss with his technique. For Choso, the only worry is if he coagulates his blood too much and causes a clot that could stop his heart. And in battle, seeing as he has more juice to work with, Choso can use blood manipulation in crazy imaginative ways. Plus, he has a huge well of cursed energy to pull from. Might I also remind you that, like Eso and Kechizu, his blood can be poisonous to others who are struck or come into contact with it directly. And likewise, Choso can manifest a lesser version of Wing King that Eso used to both attack and distract. As for his own moves, he has a few worth explaining. Flowing Red Scale is a way for Choso to boost his stats by pushing blood and oxygen through his body more quickly. Think of it like taking a shot of adrenaline. This is recognizable by the bright red lines that stretch out across his face when it activates. It makes him faster, stronger, and probably more durable. Piercing blood is what I'd call his trademark, and go-to move to weaken and catch an enemy off guard. After charging up Convergence, which is when he compresses his blood to its upper limit with his cursed energy, Choso fires off a beam of blood, too fast and strong for most to avoid. He can flick it around and even make it ricochet, but the downside is the longer it goes on, the less powerful it is. It's at its deadliest when first used. And if that's not enough, Choso relies on Supernova, a move he created while sealed away, so no other blood manipulation user knows about it. After using Convergence to strengthen his blood attacks into a denser form, he molds them into spheres that he can blow up on command, with the projectiles acting like bullets flying all over the place. If he wants, he can make them into one large orb and create a deadlier attack instead. Even if Choso was on the fence with regards to which side to choose, losing his brothers gave him a shove in the wrong direction. That's how he finds himself in the thick of things, trying to land any blood manipulation attacks on Gojo the Great. At the very least, he's sharp enough to know that he shouldn't get too close to Gojo. And besides, he's there for another reason altogether. But since he's meant to assist Jogo and Hanami to occupy him while Mahito gets preparations ready, he has no choice but to throw blood and bodies Gojo's way. When Hanami gets squashed like a bug, Choso backs away as much as he can. Except Jogo threatens to kill him if he doesn't help, so he has no choice but to step in. Eventually, Mahito arrives with his train of transfigured humans, and Choso can breathe a bit. Not only that, but he perfectly matches their violence by slaughtering the innocents trapped. Mission accomplished. Gojo's angry and uses his domain expansion. Their team isn't the target, and Fake Geto does what he set out to. Then, while Mahito and Jogo argue, Choso knows exactly what he's doing next. If he gets to Yuji first, he's killing him on sight. Nobara too. Imagine if he'd gone to her first. She probably wouldn't have done much better than Yuji. Not that it matters, since Yuji walks right into Choso's path and triggers a rage-fueled attack. He starts off with a bang, using piercing blood. But since it's more of a long-range attack and Yuji's beyond gifted as an athlete, he gets in close and lands some hits. Choso takes that moment to ask him about his siblings' final moments, and Yuji, only being honest, makes it worse by saying that they cried. In this fight, Choso not only displays intense emotions but mastery over blood manipulation that leaves Yuji stumbling for a way to get free. It's only because of Mekamaru's assistance and the change in environment that he manages to survive as long as he does. Even then, Choso shifts to strengthening his body when he can't use blood to attack outwardly. Don't get me wrong, he's definitely being hurt by Yuji's hits. They're heavy, and some have double impacts. But Choso's reinforcing himself and pushing to end this fight quickly. After piercing Yuji's liver in a brilliant upset, it gets more intense. But Choso predicts Yuji's big move and counters it. He leaves him nearly dead, bleeding on the wet tiles. And that's when the dam bursts. He has a memory of his brothers, Yuji included, sharing a meal. This never happened, but it's telling for someone like Choso. It leaves him broken and confused, so he steps away from the fighting to process it. After Shibuya is turned into a war zone, Choso leaves his spot and makes his way outside. He mainly wants to speak with Yuji, but once he's faced with Fake Geto again, the truth hits him like a truck. This man is the one who created him and tormented his mother. Is it because he saw the scarring on his head clearly this time, or was it the expression on his face? Either way, Choso knows he's Noritoshi Kamo. Without a second thought, he races to pummel this wretched man, And yeah, he's being creative with his attacks and even using blood to catch himself in the air. But it's not enough. This sorcerer has survived too long to be taken down by someone he created. Not only that, but he treats Choso like old news. None of that matters though, because Choso has a new reason to fight, and it's to protect his brother who's been used like so many others before him. Above all else, Choso is a caring and loyal person. For many, blood ties mean nothing, but maybe as someone whose whole life revolves around blood and the manipulation of it, it means everything. And he only proves that by continuing to fight a losing battle. When Yuji finally steps in along the other Jujutsu users to face fake Geto and Urarame, in the end it's pointless because thousands of curses are unleashed anyway, and he gets away without a scratch. If not for Yuki's perfect timing, a whole lot of people would have died from Urarame's ice fall. And that isn't the only time Yuki saves Choso's skin from imminent death. Later, after the Shibuya arc, with Choso's original goal in the back burner, he decides that he should get his remaining siblings instead. Keep in mind, there's still 6 cursed wombs left, but when he rejoins with Yuji, wholly invested in him as a brother, he tries to encourage him to return to his school. He also forgives Yuji entirely for what he did, since he didn't know that he was fighting his own relatives either. Besides, he nearly killed Yuji himself. So instead of going on separate paths, they work together to eliminate the curses Kenjaku unleashed across Japan. While they're bonding over this, and Choso affectionately calls Yuji his little brother, Naoya Zenin shows up. He's there to kill Megumi and secure his place as the clan head, but he thinks he needs to use Yuji as bait to do that, as if Choso's gonna let that happen. Anyway, Naoya has a speed-type curse technique that makes it difficult for Choso, but it only gets worse when Akotsu Yuta, Yuji's executioner, shows up. Since Choso's an ideal big brother, he decides he's going to take them both on so Yuji can get away. Does it work? No, not really, but Yuta slips right past Choso and Naoya takes him on. On the other hand, Naoya underestimates Choso's blood manipulation because he takes him for a regular human. So he weighs Naoya down, blocks his line of sight, then uses Supernova on him. Also, his blood is still poisonous. When Yuta comes back with a lifeless Yuji, Choso believes the worst, but long story short, it was all planned beforehand, the brothers are fine. Going forward into the Culling Game arc, it's afterwards that things start getting rough, like when Choso goes to Jujutsu High with the group, seeking Tengen and his remaining siblings. There they find out a whole lot of trouble is coming. The Culling Game, what Kenjaku started in Shibuya, is around the corner. But Choso volunteers to be a bodyguard for Tengen instead of participating, along with Yuki. He's sad to see his little bro go, though. I'd argue what Choso goes through is worse than that battle royale. As Tengen predicted, Kenjaku comes for the immortal so that he can finish another science experiment involving all of Japan. Instead, he has to deal with Choso and Yuki, forcing him to take them seriously and revealing techniques he had hidden away. In the end, Choso's saved by Yuki's sacrifice, with Tengen opening his way out. Yuki makes it clear she supports him as a big brother, and he deserves to be with family. At the very least, Choso gains some intel on the ancient sorcerer to share. Eventually, Choso returns with bad news, but at least has Yuki's notes on soul research. He then helps their side free Gojo for the final face-off with Sukuna. There's an order to who's next, and Choso's further down the list. But if the worst would come to pass, Choso wants to be prepared, since neither he or Yuji can use reverse curse technique. He asks Shoko to teach them in preparation for the massive battle incoming, and at the same time Choso entrusts the rest of his siblings to Yuji so he can become stronger, but also trains him to use blood manipulation, finally making him a true member of their family. Sadly, Choso sucks at explaining stuff like that, and he leaves it to Kamo instead. I'm sure you can picture how disappointed he is by that. But anyway, going further, the big fight starts on December 24th as planned, with the unthinkable happening. Sukuna cutting Gojo in half with the help of Maharaga's unmatched adaptability. Kashimo is next, having saved his technique strictly for Sukuna, but he's no match for the King of Curses either. Now everyone's jumping in, alongside Yuji and Higuruma. Choso prepares to face this unfathomable threat. Sukuna's nothing like Kenjaku. He's raw violence and battle hungry. And that's exactly what makes it unsurprising to see Choso pierce through, with 2 fists. But we've seen how resilient Choso is, especially when it has to do with those he cares about. Yuji's still in this fight, so we certainly can't keep him waiting. Trying piercing blood on Sukuna doesn't do much, sadly, but at least he's still alive. And after some time, when his little brother's struggling to recover from this vicious clash, Choso shows up. Blood manipulation comes in handy again, letting him seek out and repair some damage to Yuji's body. Later, they take on Sukuna again, like a tag team match, but piercing blood and supernova just can't cut it. Thankfully, Choso's also able to use his hardening to block some of the damage from Sukuna's black flash. The worst threat comes when Sukuna's recovered the use of Malevolent Shrine. Albeit incomplete, the problem is there's a surprise coming next. Still, Choso and the others activate a simple domain to defend against it, which works as intended. But Yuji, he's struggling to hold it. He even loses a leg, healing it afterwards. But Sukuna then reveals the Divine Flames. So, proving just how great of a brother he is, Choso creates a blood shield from his technique, leaving himself vulnerable to the extreme flames that Sukuna created in his domain. It's the same move that took down Maharaga in the Shibuya arc. In his final moments, like everyone else extinguished by Sukuna's monstrous power, Choso can at least speak with the person who matters to him. Despite feeling guilty for being a bad teacher, Yuji feels only gratitude for his care and loyalty. Choso thought, if nothing else, he had to save Yuji since the new generation can always surpass the old one. In other words, Yuji's necessary to win. Still, Choso feels bad for leaving Yuji this way and apologizes for it. In the end, Yuji can't help but appreciate having Choso around when he was in a very bad place. So it doesn't matter how short of a time they were able to bond. They bonded all the same. And Choso's just happy to have a little brother like Yuji. And with that, Choso's completely incinerated by Sukuna's divine flames, not able to escape death this time, choosing to embrace it. It's also in this sequence where Yuji finally calls Choso his big brother. And that is Choso's story from Jujutsu Kaisen. I hope you guys liked it, and if you did, please give this video a like. And if you want to see more Jujutsu Kaisen content like this, please subscribe as well. Have a great day, and I'll see you in the next one.